When I was a teenager, I had the privilege of being part of an Air Cadet squadron. Some of you have been involved with cadets or know of them, and I had a great time. We loved being in Air Cadets. We got to go swimming, and we got to go sailing, and we got to go canoeing, and we got to go hiking and camping, and almost never got to go flying. Funny, Air Cadets. I loved it though. We had a great time. We had, every Monday night we get together and have our marching drill and our classes and chances just to hang out. Sometimes we have dances. Yes, I know I was Baptist. I still can't dance. It was a great time we had. And of course, in cadets, one of the goals is to get promoted, to work your way up the ranks. And that's a sign that you're doing well. And so I was very pleased when I went from being just a recruit to eventually being a corporal and then a sergeant. But the time came when I was about 15 years old that it was about time for another promotion. I'd worked hard, I was ready for it, and we had the annual assembly where we got together and demonstrated our marching abilities, and the promotions were normally handed out, and they started calling out the people who were being promoted to flight sergeant, the next rank up, and I was excited. I thought, I got this nailed down, I'm going to get the promotion this time. And one after the other, they called the names of other sergeants, and didn't call my name, didn't call my name, didn't call my name. It then ended, and I found myself still a sergeant and wondering what in the world had happened. I was at least as worthy as those other people. I had worked just as hard or harder, until I realized that every one of those who'd been promoted was a child of an officer. And it bugged me. It bothered me, and it bothered me, and it bothered me. And eventually I got so frustrated with it, I quit, because it wasn't fair. And if working hard wasn't going to get me the promotion I deserved, I wasn't going to have any of it. I wasn't going to be part of something where people could be unjust or unfair. Some of you maybe can relate to a time in your life when somebody was unfair to you, where you were passed over for promotion, or maybe didn't get an opportunity you thought you had earned. Maybe a time when you asked for a raise and were turned down, or when someone treated you unfairly. I think all of us have had times when that happened, when life just doesn't go the way it's supposed to. We may handle it differently, but we all understand injustice when we see it, don't we? We know what that looks like. And I think it's part of the human condition almost to cry out to God at that moment and say, why me? How come, why me, God? I try, I work hard, I'm faithful, I've done everything I was told to do. Why is this happening to me? I think it's maybe easy for some of us. We look at the older son and we think, yeah, I kind of relate to him. He stayed home. He was faithful. He did the right thing. He worked hard. And what did he get for all his efforts? But I want to remind you of something from this story this morning. From the story of the older brother. That no matter how unfair life can seem, we can still cling to God's promises. That our inheritance is assured. It's not assured because of what we have done or failed to do. It's assured because of who the Father is and what He's done for us. Let's take a closer look at this hard-working, faithful son, shall we? It starts in verse 25. And I love how this is set up. I mean, picture the scene. There's a party going on in the main house, right? There's lots of noise. It says that he could hear the music and the dancing. So this is not some quiet, slow dance, is it? This is a foot stomp and good time that's going on. You got this older brother that's been out in the fields all day. Anybody that's ever done any farming or work outdoors knows how hot and tired and sweaty you can get. It tends to be the kind of thing where you come home thinking, I just want a shower or a bath. I just got to get cleaned up. I want a good meal. I want to go to bed, right? You can imagine his surprise when he's coming out of the fields after working hard all day, day after day after day, faithfully. Not just one day, but he's been doing this for a long time. It tells us the younger brother was gone for a long time. He was given a lot. He was wealthy, and he wasted that wealth with what his father had given him. Here's the older brother coming in from the field, and there's a party going on, and not only is he not at the party, nobody even told him there was going to be a party. I don't know about you, but I think he might have been a little frustrated at that moment. Kind of reminds me of Mary and Martha. You remember the story of Mary and Martha, where Mary's sitting at the feet of Jesus, listening to what Jesus has to say, and Martha's in the kitchen complaining, Mary, why isn't she in here helping me? Right? There's this sense that, what's going on? How come everybody's having a good time and I'm left out? How come I have to still work? So what does he do? He calls the servant and says, "What's going on?" Seems like a reasonable question, doesn't it? He calls one of the servants and asks what these things meant. And the servant says to him, "Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has received him back safe and sound." Now, I don't know about you, but if my younger brother had left home and done what the younger brother had done, I think I'd be a little bit upset at that situation. I wouldn't be going, "Woohoo, my bro was home," right? You would not be thinking, "This is good news." It's bad news he gets. From his perspective, it's not fair. My younger brother left, he took advantage of the family, he took advantage of Dad, and Dad was dumb enough to let him, and now look, he's back and they're having a party. This is not fair. He's angry because of what his brother did to his father, to him, and with what he's given. And yet this party going, I heard a story about a Sunday school teacher who was teaching the parable of the prodigal son, and as she went around the classroom and was questioning them, she said, "Boys and girls, who was not happy because the prodigal son returned?" If you read the story, your first answer is going to be what? The older brother, right? One little guy says, "The fattened calf." The older brother wasn't happy either, obviously. But how many of us know somebody just like the older brother? How many of us maybe sometimes we look in the mirror and feel a little bit like the older brother? Like we've been faithful, like we've been working hard, like we've done our best to be obedient, and yet somehow everybody else gets the breaks. Everybody else gets the party. Everybody else gets the promotion. How many of us have felt like that older brother? How many of us have resisted a change to the routine because it might mean something different is going to happen? He comes home, faithful, hardworking, and then we see what happens when he finds out the news his brother comes home. He gets angry. Verse 28, he was angry and refused to go in. That means the servant said, "Come on in, join the party," right? And so his father came out and entreated him. But he answered his father, "Look, these many years I've served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends." He's invited in, but he's angry because it's not fair. He's never been given a chance from where he stands. He's never been given an opportunity for a party. What he's really saying, and friends, we've all asked this question. I know you have, I know I have, and I know you have. We've all asked the question of God, when's it going to be my turn? Haven't we? When we looked at the way life was going, how things were turning out, and said, "This isn't fair." Haven't we all asked that question? When will it be my turn? He's angry at his father. He's angry at his father as well because he's seeing that the younger brother is getting a party, and I'm sure going through his mind is the same thing that would go through ours. What's the point of being faithful if being unfaithful gets you a celebration? Think about it. Why try? Why work so hard at doing the right thing? Paul addressed that at one point to one of the churches when people were actually going out. They said, "You know what? I love grace. Grace is so good. It feels so good when God forgives us." You know what the church did? They went out and started sinning more. They started doing more things wrong. And the rationale was, if I do more things wrong, I get to feel really good more often because I get to say, "God, I'm sorry," and I get to feel grace again, and it's all good, right? It's kind of warped logic, but that's where they got to. And Paul says, by no means do this. Don't take advantage and abuse God's grace. It's there for when we fall, not something you're supposed to jump into on purpose. I think older brothers get upset because they think they deserve better. They maybe just think they deserve more than younger brothers. After all, they're responsible, they're hardworking, they're faithful. Remember the parable of the workers in the vineyard? Jesus talks about a master who went out and hired some men at the start of the day and said, "Come out to my vineyard and work, and I'll pay you at the end of the day 1 day's wages." And then a little later in the day, he went back to work and saw some men standing around and said, "Why aren't you working?" They said, "We don't have a job. Come on, I'll pay you at the end of the day." And again, he goes two more times and brings these men in. And at the end of the day, he says to his manager, go pay them, but pay the ones that started last, pay them first. Now that would have been okay with the ones that worked all day, except they saw how much these ones that only worked an hour or so were getting paid. Remember? And they were angry. Because it's unfair. We worked all day. And the response of the master was, isn't it my right to pay as much as I choose? To reward those who come? You're not being shorted because I'm being generous. The older brother does not understand that in this story. But at the same time, I think he's dishonest with himself. Listen again to what he says to his father, his complaint. He answers his father, look, these many years I've served you. That's sort of true. Clearly, he's angry enough that what's coming out is something underneath the surface, isn't it? He may have served his father, but maybe he wasn't very happy about it, and even less happy about it after the younger brother left with all the money. I mean, you think really that it didn't cross the older brother's mind? Hey, if the younger guy can do it, maybe I can ask for my inheritance now too. Right? I mean, the younger brother got 1/3 of the estate. The older brother would have been even richer. He would have had 2/3 of the estate if his dad was willing to give it to him. Now, any parents here? Raise your hand if you're a parent. Do you believe the next statement? Listen to this brother saying to his own father. He says, I have served you and I never disobeyed your command. Do you believe that statement? For 1 second, do you believe that statement? The older brother doesn't care about the truth. He cares about it doesn't feel just. It doesn't feel fair. And so he's claiming something that never even existed in the first place. See, this happens to us, especially those of us that grew up in churches or that really try hard to live out our faith. Sometimes we get to the place where we start taking credit for being obedient, like we're better than others. We start to act like this older brother because we walk around going, yep, I'm faithful. I don't do what that guy does. Right? Don't we? And maybe we don't do it consciously, but once in a while we find ourselves talking about, did you hear about so-and-so? Oh, it's such a shame. Did you hear what they did? And what are we really saying? I would never do that. Aren't we? Friends, the truth is, if we look in the mirror, it's all too easy for those of us that have tried to follow God for a while to become just like this older brother. And what's worse is we start to resent when new ones come in, when the younger brother shows up, the unfaithful ones, and starts claiming the same grace that we get and expecting the same inheritance that we get. Some of us get a little bit irritated. Why should they, on their deathbed, after having lived the life they live, get what we get when we try to be faithful our whole lives? Doesn't it bother you? It bothered the older brother. His resentment has clearly been building for a long time. It's interesting. Jesus identifies the younger brother as having wasted what his father gave him, right? But he never says how he wasted it, does he? It's not until the older brother thinks about what he would have done that he suggests. Because he hasn't been told what the younger brother did. Yeah, he just knows his brother's home. It's the older brother who says, yeah, he wasted all that money on prostitutes. What's he really thinking? That's what I would have done if I had dared to betray my father and to go against what I knew was right. Friends, resentment is a major problem among the so-called just and righteous and faithful. We at times can be guilty of judging, condemning, of being prejudiced against those who have fallen. You don't have to waste your life in wild living. Sometimes we waste it with jealousy, pride, anger, and resentment. The difference is they're easier to hide. But friends, they're just as much of a waste of a life. It's not what we're called to do. We have this faithful son, turns out to be an angry son. And what do we see in response to that? I love the promise here. We see a loving father respond, don't we? I mean, if my kid came to me talking the way this son did, this older son did, I think I might not be gentle with him. Just a warning, Ben, as you're hiding down there. I think I might say something like, you ungrateful brat. Huh? But I want you to notice three things that the father says to his son at this moment, to this so-called faithful older son. He says to him, son, you are always with me. First thing he tells his son, the relationship we have matters more to me than what you have done for me. You are my son. That's what matters the most. We so often as Christians, we start out just so excited that God is willing to forgive us, that He's willing to accept us, let us come home like the prodigal. We're so excited about that. We celebrate that. We're happy about it. We feel relieved. And then as time passes, we feel more and more obligation. Oh, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do this, I'm not supposed to not do this, I'm supposed to not do this. And after a while, we start taking credit for our relationship with God as if what we do now is the reason why we're in good with Him. You notice that? How many times, if you think that's not true, how many times have you not found yourself doing something you knew you shouldn't, and then you punished yourself for a while when you realized and tried to stop? You said, oh man, I really messed up. No, I can't pray. I don't feel like I can pray because I made such a big mistake. And it might take days or weeks or even months before we deal with it and get back in the right relationship with the Father. That's how we feel, isn't it? But the truth is that what we did was never the point in the first place. The Father's happy to see us come back the second we realize we want to turn around, just like when the younger son comes to his senses, the moment we come to our senses as older brothers. So we, too, can come back because the relationship matters more. He goes on to guard the elder brother's inheritance. I mean, wouldn't it cross your mind? Wait a minute, the younger brother took a third of the father's estate, wasted it, now he's back, he's expecting to get more money. Wouldn't it? He's going to take some of what belongs to me. So the father reassures him. Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. Just like there's room in one person's heart to love more than one person at a time, so God's wealth is great enough that when He gives to others, it doesn't take away from what He's giving to you. Son, you are always with me. All that is mine is yours. It's like Debbie and I went on a cruise when we were on our vacation, and I saw this great story about a cruise ship passenger who got on the ship, and this first day, he'd never been on a cruise before, so a total newbie like Debbie and I, but had nobody to guide him, tell him how to do things. So he gets on the ship, and he's walking around enjoying the decks and the views, but after a while he starts to get hungry. And he sees all these people eating and drinking everywhere he goes. They're on the Lido deck, or in the banquet hall, or they're in the dining room, and they're just having a great time eating. And he thinks, oh man, I'm so hungry. So what does he do? He goes back to his cabin and he eats the cheese and crackers he brought with him. And the next day he sees them eating, and he goes back to his cabin and eats the cheese and crackers with them. And the next day the same, and the next day the same. But finally, the last day, he's starving. His cheese and crackers aren't looking so good anymore. The cheese is getting kind of green. And out of desperation, he goes and he talks to the steward and he says, I'll do anything, I'll wash dishes, just give me some of what you're serving. The steward says, let me see your ticket. He shows his ticket, and the steward says, sir, the price of the food is included in the cost of the cruise. You could have been eating all along. I didn't know what that meant until you realized how much you eat on a cruise. 2 desserts if you want. Every dinner. I see that I did. Here's the thing. The older brother, this older brother has forgotten this privilege that he has, that he's allowed to have all that his father has. Notice the father says, you're always with me, all that I have is yours. Right? The older brother's mistake was he never asked. You see that? Younger brother says, Father, give me what I have coming to me. And Father says, here you go. The older brother goes, yeah, but I'm the faithful, hard-working one. I'm just going to keep my nose to the grindstone. And he does without for a long time. Because he never asked. What a promise. The inheritance is not way down the road somewhere. It's not that delayed gratification we're all talking about. It's God saying, right here, right now, all that I have, all the blessings I have available, they're yours for the asking. But you have to ask. And lastly, you notice what he says? He says, son, you're always with me. All that I have is yours. And then he says this, it was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for this, your brother, was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found. The last thing the father says to this older brother is this, it's not your brother's party, it's mine. See the difference? The older brother's mad because he thinks his younger brother got a party for doing the wrong thing. The father's saying, no, you got it wrong, buddy. I'm the one that's having a party. And I invited your younger brother, and I'm inviting you too. To the celebration. Because one who was dead is alive, one who was lost is found. It was Henry Nouwen who said it this way, looking into myself and then around me at the lives of other people, I wonder which does more damage, lust or resentment. There is so much resentment among the just and the righteous. There is so much judgment, condemnation, and prejudice among the saints. There is so much frozen anger among the people who are so concerned about avoiding sin. Friends, sometimes we're so busy trying to do the right thing, we forget to actually do the right thing. To understand that the Father is always with us. That all that He has is ours. And that our inheritance is secure. And that we are invited to His celebration. See, what Jesus is really saying by adding this piece on, I ask myself, why did Jesus even talk about the older brother? Have you ever wondered that? The prodigal son story stands on its own without an older brother, doesn't it? I mean, it's just a frame of reference. It was the younger one that took the money, wasn't it? Except you have to think about Jesus' audience. He wasn't just talking to sinners and tax collectors. You know who else was there? Take a guess. Who else was listening? Pharisees, scribes, lawyers, religious folks. And so Jesus puts the second brother in for one reason, because God cares about them too. He's showing compassion to those who have no compassion for others. He's saying, you too are welcome in my Father's kingdom. You too matter to my Father. You know, just like the prodigal, once we were lost, once we were found. None of us deserve God's blessings any more than the prodigal did. I don't care how long you've been coming to church. I don't care how much money you've given. I don't care how many areas you've served in. Folks, none of us deserve God's grace and love. We all receive it through Jesus Christ, through trusting in Him as our Lord and Savior. Through the price He paid. That's the only way any of us can come. What we need to remember from the older brother is the danger of thinking that somehow we're better than the prodigal. We're both lost, just in different places. So if you're the younger brother and you've wandered away, I invite you to return. And remember, as I said last week, that you always have a home with God through Jesus Christ. But if you find looking in the mirror that you're more like that older brother, I challenge you to ask God to forgive you for that attitude and to take away the bitterness and resentment. I challenge you to listen to the music again, to come to the feast He's prepared, to join Him in seeking the lost and claim your inheritance and celebrate with Him those who are found. And at the end of the day, all you need to do is come home to the Father, because He's looking for both of His lost children. Would you pray with me?